Good afternoon and many blessings, ladies and gents. Welcome to the Sunday Refresher. It is the end of the month, and so that means we are going to be here talking, recapping what has happened throughout the entire month, what we have discussed, including what is going on in contrast of the lovely Pride Month, as well as everything going on with Black Lives Matter and making sure we keep our peace. Now, I do have a guest speaker, Zeb. He will be joining momentarily once he gets everything established with his life. And we'll be going to go from there. Now, we went from everything from talking the different levels of sexuality, as well as the different levels of, the spectrum, the differences between being pansexual, bisexual, queer, gay, and a lot of stuff involving that. So let me go ahead here. Tell him to get off the internet. There's lag. I'm gonna add Zeb on, and we're gonna go from there. And kind of see how the live's been going. Hi, Zeb. Welcome. So Zeb is officially here, and we're getting a whole background of what's going on in your back of your house. Are you in the midst of cleaning out and doing summer cleaning?
Yes, I'm cleaning my daughter's room, which is an all-weekend job, but prepping for laundry and doing the parenting thing is, yeah.
Can you tell my best friend to stop being a mess?
I'm sure you've noticed from the Winky Unicorn.
Just leave my best friend alone. She's in that age where she's allowed to be rambunctious and out there. It is okay. So, as you guys already know, that from your friendly neighborhood witch, that would be me, as well as the unapologetic pansexual succubus in my own good days, when I am being a succubus. I'm here to recap everything that has been going on for the month for the podcast, as well as answer any unanswered questions for people, as well as if you guys have any questions, concerns about my coming out story. If you want to kind of go through that, I really don't know if y'all really want to know that, but more or less, we also talked about the laws on Tuesdays for people who are not aware of the different laws that not all states recognize non-discrimination protection in most states. And it's still a little bit scary for a lot of people, especially if they're gay, straight, and they think that they're in like a state that recognizes it and that they are going to be okay being in the same sex relationship and then have the same rules and regulations as other people or other couples who are in a traditional straight relationship, or as the God-fearing people say, one man, one woman together. So my sister is just making a lot of noise today, guys. So y'all are just gonna have to deal with it. She's like, I want to be here, but I don't want to be here. It's like that's what she's doing apparently in the background. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people think that because a lot of states recognize same-sex marriage and those who are part of the LGBTQ community, and they allow them to have their pride parades and everything else like that, they don't realize that a lot of the stuff that a lot of the people are fighting for right-wise when it comes to Black Lives Matter, as well as the LGBTQ community, we're still going to constantly be fighting. And it is one of those things where you kind of need to know the ground rules of what consider is LGBTQ, as well as those who are supporters versus those who are, curious and things of that nature. Now, you could be on the fence on your self-discovery and figuring out who you are. And I mean, we all go through our self-discovery stages. But you definitely don't want to just sit here and say that you're bisexual when all actuality you might be pan, or you can't say that you're pansexual when you are actually just bisexual. Because some people will automatically, I know that was something that was brought up to me about that episode, was a lot of people were really confused because they thought that pansexual and bisexual were similar. And I have to tell them, no, bisexual just means they'll either date a woman or a male. And that's just it. No in between. While pansexual dates everybody in between, which me being pansexual, I've dated somebody who's transgendered. I have dated somebody who was, still going through the discovery phase of figuring out who they were, if they were gender fluid or if they were non-binary. And I believe more in people's hearts than what they look like. Believe me, don't get me wrong, I find a lot of celebrities to be attractive. Doesn't mean I'm gonna want to date them. It's got to be about their hearts and who they are and what's going on. So we talked a little bit about that, and we talked a little bit about parenting in the gay community, especially what came down to Father's Day, and talking about if somebody is transgendered and their pronouns is now he versus she, are they allowed to be celebrating Father's Day, which I feel as though that Father's Day, as long as you are giving or instilling in that child the fraternal instinct that they need in life, then yes, you should be. Doesn't matter if you were originally born a woman or if you were originally born a man and you became a female. You should be able to give them those tools in order to be a great child. Which led into Tuesday's little in-between episode where we were talking about the laws and about how in some states it's harder for gay couples to adopt than it is in other states. And because of certain states not recognizing or want to play the religion card, that it's against their religion to allow these parents to adopt this child and things of that nature, and how a lot of people have found workarounds about it. But we feel like because we're in the 21st century, that we're a lot more forgiving, we're a lot more understanding, we are a lot more in tune when it comes down to fighting rights and thinking that laws have changed. And in some states, the laws really haven't changed as much or at all. They would rather see...
Just because those laws have changed, it doesn't mean that you can't still be discriminated against by policies relating to companies, policies relating to individuals, policies relating to schools, or just flat out discrimination from the individuals in a particular neighborhood or community or career path. And it doesn't have to be, as a matter of fact, it does have to be very explicitly blatant for you to actually be called out about that discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So unless someone says, I am denying you service specifically because you are gay, it can be left ambiguous. That person can cite whatever reasons or exceptions they want to. So there are legal issues, and then there are people who are standing up for what they believe is their moral obligation. And they'll say whatever they need to say to get their agenda passed. So that was an interesting episode to have to go over to see exactly how many different ways people can be screwed over just for being who they are.
And we've also talked about how in some cases, in some states, they still do gender checks. And they still sweep that under the rug. It still happens quite often. We also talked about how transgendered bodies are randomly showing up, or people who are transgendered randomly disappearing and dying, and they're not really recognizing or acknowledging it in the news and political. And you guys know I really don't typically get political, and I don't typically get in depth when it comes to taboo things, but that was the whole reason for the podcast. The whole reason for the podcast is to help people get out of their comfort zone, for people who want to seek knowledge, for people who want to find a journey and self-discovery when it comes to their sexuality, their mental health, their physical health, things of that nature. That was the whole reason I created this podcast, was so we don't stay comfortable, because unfortunately life is not built for comfortability. Unfortunately, a lot of people can say their ultimate goal is to be comfortable, but unfortunately, with everything constantly changing, things will constantly end up like going into effect and evolving. And as we go through a path of self-discovery, so is scientists and so is the world. So unfortunately, comfortability is an unreachable goal, because unfortunately, it's just never going to happen. That just means you're going to be content wherever you are, and you're going to remain stagnant in most cases.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like that story, unfortunately, that podcast was not put on YouTube or on Podbean or Spotify. Unfortunately, that one is exclusively only on my IG. So you have to be following my IG to actually see it and to actually hear it and take a moment to look at it. It is on my IGTV at lady_Reiko. For that handle, if you want to go more into depths on the laws against non-discrimination. Zeb is definitely given a lot of insight as a person who is a supporter, and talked to us a little bit more in depth of the perspective of somebody who is straight and who is a supporter, and how to really come and handle on that end. Like for me, I can tell you as a person who's tried to do self-discovery for years of my life, trying to figure out, was I a lesbian? Was I straight? Was I bi-curious? Was I bi? Like, I've gone through every letter almost except for gay, because I mean, well, I am gay, but it's okay. I'm gay in the sense of happy all the time. But I mean, I've gone through everything under the sun when it comes to my self-discovery. And the thing is, like, you can say it's a phase, you could say it's whispers of the devil or whatever you want to say. Unfortunately, this is not a phase. I've been this way well over a decade. I think it's almost 2 decades, because my first experience that made me realize I like girls was around the time I was like 9. So I'm 29 now, and I still kind of like girls. So phase that lasted for 2 decades. It's just one of those things. Like, I've learned that you gotta determine a person by their personality, not by the sex or what's in between their legs. Definitely about their hearts. Now, when it comes down to journeys for other people, I know some people are still in the closet. I know a lot of people who are still trying to figure themselves out. I'm hoping with the first episode this month that you guys were able to kind of get a little bit more insight on the difference between being gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, demisexual. Well, demisexual is a form of asexuality. And also talked about asexuality, and that knowing that even if you may be under the spectrum or under the umbrella of asexuality, that, you know, that does not mean that you don't have sex. It doesn't mean that you're not incapable of having sex. It just means that you are very particular. I know some people who will not have sex with anybody unless they are emotionally attached to them, which is demisexual, which is me. I know some people who are only sexually attracted to people or get aroused by people who are intelligent. And I mean, not like stupid intelligent, because there's definitely a difference between intelligent and then lack of common sense, because there's definitely a broad spectrum. But I know a lot of people who get turned on by people because of their minds. That is definitely a form of asexuality. And the thing is, too, when it comes down to the spectrums and knowing the differences, you could be multiple things. Like for me, I am demisexual and pansexual, meaning I can date anybody based off of you know, who they are as a person. but then I'm also have to have an emotional attachment to them in order to want to have sex with them. Like all day, I'll gas people up talking about, yes, bitch, yes. Have I remind you lately I'm gay, when they are dressing up and they are looking like a whole snack, or they're looking amazing, and then they don't realize that, like, I won't physically have sex with them because I'm also demisexual. I gotta have an emotional attachment. And for me, it takes a lot for me to get emotionally attached to somebody. Same with, you can't just judge that, oh, my best friend's gay, that means he wants to have sex with me. No, that does not necessarily mean he wants to have sex with you. Just because he's gay just means that, he confided enough in you to let you know, hey, you and I have been best friends for the longest, and I'm gay. And they're seeking to you not to come out as I want to tell you how much I love you, because unfortunately the media has definitely, especially when it comes to Hollywood movies, made it seem that when a guy comes out to another guy or their best friend, in all actuality, they're confessing their love to them. In most cases, that's not the case. In a lot of the cases, they're just coming out to them because that's the person they consider family, and they rather come out to their best friend before they go out to their real family, because in a sense their best friend is their family. I need people to understand that when a female comes out to a female, does not necessarily mean she wants to fuck every female. Like, instance, when it comes down to pansexuality, a lot of people automatically hear, oh, you're pan, so you want to fuck everybody. I'm like, no, it does not mean I want to fuck everybody. Apparently, I want to fuck everybody, Zeb. That's apparently what we're doing in our days.
I'm under the impression that a lot of people, when it comes to kind of getting more familiar with things, and it's across the board.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people whose only experience with a black person is these very limited interactions or what they see on TV. So if every black woman on TV is just, honey, like, automatically, all black women are just sassy, neck rolling, or super ghetto, or ready to fight at the drop of a hat. And if that's your only guidebook for dealing with someone or interacting with someone who's black, people wonder why then a white woman acts not necessarily standoffish, but super capitulating and wants to keep a respectful distance and is worried about offending, or thinking automatically, oh no, if I say something wrong, I'm going to get my ass whooped. It's not that you're putting off this air of being threatening, it's the idea, the perception in their head that this is the type of person that black women apparently are. Just in the same way that all gay people have an agenda. And if that agenda is simply equality, no one should have an issue with that. But the thing is, people are under the impression that if you're gay and you have an agenda, it's like having an addiction or a compulsion. Apparently, you are just, as a gay woman or a gay man, just genital thirsty that you are willing to grab on to the first thing you see. So if you're gay, apparently you're obviously checking out every guy in the locker room. If you're a gay woman, apparently every time you go to Victoria's Secret, you're just trying to sneak a peek around the next door to see someone in the middle of a bra fitting. And it's this stereotypical perception, because when people try to represent being gay in media, or used to try to represent being gay in media, it was always this flamboyant, suggestively sexual, overtly feminine, super loud and out type of thing, where everything seemed to revolve around sex because there were not gay people writing gay characters, and it was just the stereotypes being overplayed and overplayed and overplayed. And when they end up in classic television or classic media of any kind, books, TV shows, movies, these are the representations that we have of gay characters. So if these classical works last or are part of popular culture, then that's the representation we're going to have in our mind. Sometimes with masculinity, it's the exact same thing. Our idea of a man is John Wayne. Our idea of a man is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Our idea of a man or a manly man is, you know, this guy, the stoic man, the Humphrey Bogarts of, you know, yesteryear or whatever the case is.
And that's the thing that really gets me too, is because we're so consumed about what media perceives is the right stereotype for those who are in the LGBT community. When it comes down to movies and when it comes down to, you know, TV shows, because when you watch TV shows and everything else like that, you only really see what is portrayed, especially even with reality shows. They're still, people forget that they're still playing a character. These people on reality shows are not being their true, honest selves 100% of the time. They are selling a character, or they're selling a side of themselves that people are feeding on. The thing is, like, when it comes,
being heavily narrated,
exactly, and they're
or heavily edited, yeah,
to look that way, especially when it comes down to, like, you know, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, or when it comes down to RuPaul's Drag Race. Some of those people, they pick the most outlandish drag queens to be on the show, and most drag queens don't act like that all the time. They only pick the ones that have the outlandish or over the top personalities, and this is what people perceive as, this is what a drag queen is. This is what a gay person is. This is no, because there is so many different things that people fail to realize, that every person has their own individuality.
And that's part of what representation is. But if you look for your representation where you find your entertainment, you're not usually going to find accurate representation, because somebody going to Starbucks, getting a coffee, going to work in the IT department, fixing some computers, taking some tech support calls, going home, kissing their husband, sitting down on the couch, and watching a couple of episodes of the Great British Bake Off is not interesting. There's no drama. There's no gravitas to that. So when you look for entertainment, there always has to be a conflict. But people don't apply the same lens to minority characters, to gay characters, as they do to straight characters. If you look at your straight characters in sitcoms, they're always over the top or snooping or have these loud, big personalities, but you don't look at them any differently. If you think that Al Bundy from Married with Children is the everyman, a guy who hates his wife and puts his hand down his pants and scratches his balls and, like, is just generally rude to everyone that comes along with a can't give a fuck attitude and is focused on the glory days of high school, that's not an accurate representation of the everyman. Some of those traits are real. Some of those traits are over-exaggerated for laughs or entertainment, but that's what a sitcom is. It's an over-exaggeration of everyday problems to make them ridiculous enough to be palatable. So when you see an overly ridiculous gay character or an overly effeminate character, it's not an accurate representation. It's an exaggeration. But since you don't have exposure to gay people, you think, oh, well, that's at least got to be kind of true. Black people don't refer to everyone as dog or homie or bruh. It's not a thing that we all relate the same way.
Do you know how many times I've literally wanted to look at somebody, like I've looked at somebody, judge them straight up, especially when I worked at the airline. I had a kid come up to me. He was a Chad. I'm going to just say it like that. He was a Chad. Came up to me, talk about, hey, big dog. I'm like, what? And it's just, it's bad, because the people look at me and perceive what they want to perceive, what they've seen, or what people allow them to get away with, where they're from, what they're looking at in media. and everything else like that. Like when they look at me, because of the way my hair is cut, they automatically think, oh, you must be a dyke. And then they see me with makeup and they were like, oh, you must be confused. No, honey, I am fully aware of who I am. I'm okay with who I am. And that doesn't make me less of a person who is who I am. Just like at the same time, when they look at Black women and a woman who is outspoken, who don't take shit from anyone, I'm too dominant. I have way too much masculinity because I don't soften up. I'm too hard. So obviously, when it comes down to me being pansexual and I'm dating a female, I must be the man in the relationship. No, not necessarily. You can't just judge off of what the media has perceived or what I look like on the outside, because honestly, when they look at me, and most of the time I post up videos of me listening to music, they mainly hear me post up like, R&B, but I still listen to rock more than I listen to R&B. I still listen to a lot of other stuff. I listen to classical music. Hell, there's a violin in the back. Like, and I watch horror movies. And then when moment I mention I'm a witch, they automatically think I'm evil. So because the PR for these particular things, people are they're looking at Hollywood to get their representation. They're getting their representation from the news and the media versus actually sitting down and talking to somebody.
I mean, if your only perception is what the media has represented, why would you talk to someone that, according to your research, according to the news, there's a gay agenda and they're all out here to ruin our lives and take our firstborn sons and turn them into just limp-wristed sissies, or they're willing to take our daughters and turn them out and have their faces pierced and their eyebrows pierced and have them out here going over just buried in coochie from dusk till dawn. They're going to ruin our children. And it's like, there's nothing about that that's a real thing. But
I feel called out.
A lot of our fears as a culture are based on these representations that we have. Anyone who doesn't worship the Judeo-Christian God is apparently the enemy, which means if you worship nature or if you worship multiple gods, like, oh no, you put another god before my God, which means you're a heathen. And it's all this idea that whatever your particular brand of living is, if it does not conform to standard Americana, then that's a problem. But the issue is that gay people, trans people, Black people, Irish people, the Chinese, they all make up America. If not for the Chinese and them being exploited to all shit, we wouldn't have the railroads that made America great again. If not for the African Americans that take the cotton and fucking helped raise the children, we would not have these established plantations or industry or anything else. If not for the Irish who came over here looking for like a better life and got stereotyped as cops, as far as the paddy wagons and all this like all of this stuff, we all as units helped build America. If not for gay people, niggas would still be walking around in Timbs and motherfucking tank tops because being metrosexual got popularized and it became okay for a man to give a shit about his appearance despite looking like the Marlboro Man or the Brawny Man. Those ideas of masculinity got challenged where, yes, we can wear slacks. Yes, they don't have to be baggy. Yes, we can get ourselves manicured or trim our facial hair or leave a little bit of stubble or part our hair a particular way. And all of these things didn't have to challenge the idea that we were any less masculine as a result and that we didn't have to be gay to dress well,
to want to take care of yourself. I felt like at this point in time, they were trying to sell, the media was trying to sell that the only way you could be straight is if you rolled around in the mud, didn't bathe for several days, didn't change your drawers, put on deodorant, or you sat here and fixed the whole car and repaired a car by hand, not realizing that most of the stuff that men wore was by a gay man. Their jeans, their clothes, who modeled them, most of them were gay or had experiences. And that's just it. Like I try to tell people, like, you can't sit here and bash and hate something you don't understand and what you can't understand, because of course you're never going to live that life. But at the same time, you can't sit here and say, oh, well, gay people this, gay people that, and you never live the lifestyle. You're going off of what you're seeing on the media. You're going off of what you're seeing in the perspective of the news, and not going out and educating yourself and taking the time to learn from yourself, or talking to somebody who is taking the real time to actually do the research versus what they're seeing in the media. Because again, the media is going to get paid to deliver the news that is important to that media. Like, honestly, like I said, whatever is more important, if the governor's like, hey, I don't want you to post anything positive about gay people, I'll make sure your station gets covered a lot of money. You can still cover it, just don't put it on the top news. Put it on that little blimp at the bottom. That's fine, because they have to still report the news. If there's news, they got to report it. And it may not be something they post up immediately. It may not be the big cover story and stuff that, the actual anchor person is talking about at the time. And yes, people are afraid of what they don't understand or like. It's going to be that way for generations to come. And unfortunately, this is why I said what I said a while ago when it came to the whole Black Lives Matter. Like, even if the racists got what they wanted and we quote unquote go back home to Africa, they are not going to be happy. They're not. You're going to find someone else to hate. You're going to channel that hate and move it to somewhere else, because hate is taught. It's not something that you're born with. It's something you're taught. And just like anything you're taught, you can be untaught it and learn something new. It's just a matter of, are you open and receptive of it?
I mean, and sometimes it doesn't have to even be that you're open to hate. There's, from one of the worst Star Wars movies, Yoda is basically talking about fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate is the path to the dark side. And it's true, because you don't have to have a person hate. All you have to do is make a person afraid. And if they're afraid, then you can teach them hate. Most of the women who were walking around afraid that one of these mandingos might turn up and rape their small, poor, little fragile white bodies were given this sense of fear. If you give a person fear, then you can instill hate. All you have to do is let them know, oh, do you know what these Negroes would do to you if they got their hands on you? And then what would happen if you got pregnant with one of their black babies, and then they would tear you apart, limb from limb, if they ever got a chance to get their hands on you. So all of that fear is a matter of you being so inundated with these negative images, negative stories, negative ideas, that you can't help but either be perpetually afraid, but in your fear, there's a sense of empowerment in knowing, oh, well, that's all right, I'll get them before they rape my women or steal our jobs or ruin our children or whatever else. Because in your mind, and I'm going to say this as a small PSA, tiny PSA, if your parents, if you are on any aspect of the LGBTQIA spectrum, anywhere, and your parents are having trouble accepting you or your partner, it may not always be that they are homophobic. It may not always be that they're set in their ways. There is something that I had to have another adult explain to me when they were struggling with finding out that their son was gay. When you have a child, and I've experienced this firsthand, when you have a child, you lose your child in stages. When my baby was small enough for me to hold like this, like to just cradle in my arm, I would get super overwhelmed with emotion because I have to care for this small, helpless baby.
Mm-hmm.
She can't do anything without me. I have to change her, I have to feed her, I have to make sure that all of her needs are met, and I cannot drop the ball, ever. And when you're looking down at a child in your arms and you're seeing this defenseless, helpless baby, eventually they get to a point where they start to talk. And then you can hear them muttering and you know what's coming next. You know they're going to be able to ask for what they need or tell you what they want. And you're looking forward to that. And then they start walking. And it's like, okay, then eventually they can use the bathroom by themselves and they can ask for the food they want so you don't have to guess. And the more they gain a personality, the more they gain their independence, you start to lose the infant, then you start to lose the toddler, then you start to lose the preteen, then you start to lose the teenager because they're turning into an adult. And going through those phases, there's a sense of loss. But when you look at them, you're always going to see the 7-year-old with skint knees coming to you crying. You're going to see the 4-year-old that tripped and fell. You're going to see the kid that you put on a bike. So in your mind, no matter how old your child gets, you're seeing a helpless little boy or a helpless little girl. Whenever you meet their partner is an adult. You aren't seeing that kid when they were 7 or 8. You're seeing a 22-year-old man. And you know the only thing that makes that 22-year-old man different than your son, or that 22-year-old woman different than your daughter, is that their sexual preference is the only thing between them. So in your mind, you are seeing, when you think about the fact the only connection they have, other than love, is sex, you are seeing your 4 or 7-year-old that you cradled in your arm with an adult on top of them. And the idea of that there's an adult with your baby girl or your baby boy, you can't help but see that as them taking them over or taking advantage of them or them dominating them in a sexual way. And the idea of that is just as gross as you thinking about your parents having sex.
I'm aware that they still have sex. It's okay.
Right, like that's the thing that they're reconciling with is this is their baby doing an adult thing with another adult. They don't see you as a fully actualized, fully realized woman or fully realized man. They don't have the perception filter to be able to tell the difference. And the only time it's different is when you know the other person's kid. It's like, oh, you have been playing together since you were little. Oh, we knew you all were in love when you had a little fake marriage on the playground. Oh, you went to grammar school with them. Oh, you went to high school with them. I know them like the back of my hand. You watched that other person grow up. So you can see the progression where both of them are on the same level.
Versus
you don't have
a
the same
whole new person.
weirded out feelings. So any type of sexual advances that this grown-ass person is making towards your baby feels like they're being molested. It creeps you the fuck out. Like, it's a gross emotional thing for you as an adult because you're not seeing your child as an adult. And that's how it was explained to me by a parent of a gay person. They had to get to a point where they grew into acceptance that it was about the small things. for them, it stopped being about that when they would see them holding hands while washing dishes. Like, just little things that let them separate the sex from the love. And then they got more accepting. They got to see, okay, well, this is what this is about for them. And it's still like I talked to him like 2 weeks ago. He was saying it still grosses him out to think about their kid having sex. Like, but he's like, I was just as grossed out when I, caught my daughter touching herself. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of something you don't want to think about as your child as a sexual creature. So when you kind of put things in context, they're not always trying to be unaccepting. They might be completely accepting of your love. They might be completely accepting of your choices, of your gender, of everything else. But try to have that conversation with them. Is it the sex that has them so put off of your choices? Because in the Black community, gay is so frowned upon and emotionally distant because rape, especially man-on-man sexual domination, was used as a tool to subjugate. And it's like, why would someone willingly sign up to be subjugated in that way? And that's not what being gay is about. Being gay is not about the sex. Obviously, it is a component, but it's about feeling love, feeling attraction, feeling emotion for a person of the same sex or of the same gender or of an opposite sex or gender, or just feeling attached on an emotional, spiritual, or psychological level to another person that is different, only in the fact that they're separate from you. They still feel like they're a part of you. You still feel invested in that person, but that's something that's a concept that's hard to explain to people who think in binaries.
I always,
when they think right or wrong, left or right, boy or girl, it's hard for them to separate those things.
I always sit here and tell people, when it comes to being a child of a mixed African American father who grew up in the hood, and being gay is still very frowned upon in his eyes, he's became more accepting. He's got to the point where, as long as it doesn't personally affect me, that's how he looks. And I could tell you, even at 29, my dad has not accepted me as being an adult. In his eyes, I'm still baby girl. Even when I got married, oh, you're always going to be my baby girl. This, that, and the other, this, that, and the third. And like, honestly, I can see where it comes from. Like, I don't have living children of my own. Again, I 2 miscarriages, but I have god kids, and I have a lot of friends who have kids. So the mindset of a parent is completely different than that of a child. So when you do confront your parents about that, we're so scared of embarrassing them or making them disappointed. And in their eyes, they're just scared of fucking this up. They're looking at it as, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. This is my child. I decided to take care of them. And honestly, when it comes down to coming out to a parent, we can't just automatically think that they don't accept it. They may have to process it. They have to ingest it. They have to digest it. And it may take them a lot longer. Just like, corn may never be digested properly it will never be digested properly in your system. But for that information, they have to still kind of register it properly. It's going to be a process. It is a long process for both a child as well as the parent when it comes to coming out. So when you come to grasp of who you are and what your sexuality is, it's not going to be something that happened overnight. It's going to be something that it's going to come in stages. It's going to take a while for you to realize, yeah, I kind of was staring at the guy for a good minute, in the locker room, or I had my first gay crush. maybe it's just a phase. And you have to take a moment to go through that to realize if you truly are gay, or was that just a passing experiment, or, a passing, moment to figure out if that's truly who you are. And then when you finally have the courage to bring it to your parent, they got to go through their own evolving and accepting of the information that has been delivered to them. Because in their eyes, even when you're 18, you are still their child. You're still that 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever in their mind they want to hold on to. And it's usually like the moment of innocence for them, like that moment of clarity that they loved you the most in your childhood is what they hold on to. So, like I said, as a person who is pansexual, and my parents, I'm pretty sure they know. I have never fully came out to my dad. My mom is aware, my biological mother. My stepmom, pretty sure probably knows, but it's not like I hide it. I just haven't physically came up and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm slightly gay." Like, but it's not like I hide it. My dad's on all my social media for the most part. So a lot of parents think that things are phases. And a lot of parents think that, it's something like they don't want to hold on to it because they think like, oh, it's just a phase. They'll get over it. Sometimes it's not a phase. I mean, I've been gothic. Shit, Diva, how long? As long as she's known me, and that's since she was 8. So probably even longer than that. I've been listening to Linkin Park and rock music since well before I moved to this back to the States, when my parents got stationed back from Germany. So that's well over 2 decades. And to this day, my dad thought that, oh, you're dressing with trip pants and baggy shirts. Oh, you're dressing like a bum. This is just a phase. So he thought maybe, dressing me up in clothes, because he was so used to wearing fitted clothes, used to how it is in Chicago, where every time they get some new Nikes, they got to get a whole new Nike fit or baby fat and this, that. I didn't want to wear none of that stuff. So it's in their eyes, it's a phase, and they think that they can get you out of that phase by changing or, reprogramming you in a way, because, buying the clothes for me, thinking it's going to reprogram me, is not going to change who I am. I mean, I've gotten more casual over the years, but I'm still very much goth. My room is dark. I got a whole bunch of horror posters. I got a bunch of fucking platform boots, and my modeling speaks for itself. But a lot of people don't realize that these things are not just phases. These are, we just find our center, our ground. We have to have our own personalities. We're not going to end up like our parents 100% of the time. Like, I definitely got my dad's personality, but I don't have his same sense of style. I definitely like the same type of music he likes. My dad likes a lot of music, including rock music, which it's like he's listened to rock music, like old school rock music. So for him to sit here and be like, well, I don't know where you get it from, but then realizing that him being a DJ and introducing me to AC/DC is the reason why I like rock music and why I'm the way that I am, and what kind of got me into this and finding my own individuality. But that's just it. A lot of people have to take in consideration and realize that, as a person, we're going to find our own individuality. As a person who is also somebody's daughter, I'm going to find my own personality. And that's for anybody who's anybody's, well, everybody is somebody's child. When you came into your own, a lot of us don't mirror our parents.
A lot of us don't mirror our parents, not because we don't idolize them, not because we don't love them, not because we don't think that they're amazing in some way or another. We don't emulate our parents once we start having our own ideas, once we start having our own likes and dislikes. There's a point in time where, as a kid, anything your parent does, mother or father or both, you want to do it badly. And the only time you don't want to do it is if you fuck it up. And that sense of that sense of idolization, they're your first introductions to what you think is perfection. Your parents know everything. Your dad is the strongest man in the world. Your mom is the most beautiful woman in the world. They are perfect in every way until they're not.
Yep.
Until, you see somebody else that's stronger than your dad, or you notice that, your mom may not be the most beautiful woman in the world. She's always going to be beautiful to you. Your dad is always going to be strong to you, but there's always going to be this moment of separation where you're going to ask your parents a question and you think, oh, well, dad knows everything. And you're going to ask a question, he doesn't know the answer.
And he's going to be trying to figure it out. And then, like Dark said on here, a lot of parents try to mold their children into a way, but then they don't see that they're following the path and they get frustrated, upset at times. That's usually what it is. Because honestly, with my dad to this day, I'm pretty sure the reason he won't acknowledge my gay postings is because in his mind, instead of, he feels like if he doesn't acknowledge it, it doesn't exist. And it's like, that's not going to change. I'm not going to change for nobody. He's realized that at this point, he done comment on so many times on like, why you keep getting piercings and tattoos and this, that, and the other. You're too pretty to be piercing your face and too pretty to be putting ink on your body. But he has his initials on his arm. He has ET on his arm. And I'm just like, but you got a tattoo. He's like, this is something when I was young and dumb and stupid. And I was just like, okay, we all have it. And I have to accept. I tell my dad all the time, I'm like, I'm not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. My whole thing is seeking my form of perfect. So I'm perfectly imperfect in the eyes of everybody. Like, I'm okay with it. But I'm happy and content with who I am. I'm going to always be myself. I'm going to be myself 100% of the time, unapologetically. Don't get me wrong. I am going to apologize because that's just stem from my PTSD. I'm sorry, guys. It's just, it's hit or miss. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people don't realize when you go through these paths of self-discovery, whether you find out you're gay, whether you find out that you're bi, pansexual, you're going to go through a lot of trial and error of figuring it out. And when it comes to that point, when you finally want to tell your parents, when you figured it out, they're going to have to go through the same process. Just like you go through your process, they're going to go through theirs. And it's going to take time. It may not happen immediately because they have this whole textbook where parents are either going to, oh, I can't, you're not even my child, I don't want to look at you. Or they're going to be like, oh my God, I've already knew, I love you so much. Because some parents can see it, some parents can't. Some parents would just like sweep it under the rug and was like, maybe it's just a phase. But in all actuality, they have to process and digest it just like you have to process it and digest it. Because just like you, they are still evolving. They are still progressing. Unless, again, you decide that this is where I'm at, I'm good, I'm going to just stay stagnant. Unfortunately, especially with today's generation where we are constantly fighting for equality, we're fighting for justice, we're fighting for everything under the sun. The big thing is that you just want to try to figure out what's going to be true for you. You want to make sure that when it comes down to seeking your own truth, that you are playing it to end when it comes down to understanding. Just like it takes you a minute to understand, it's going to take you a minute. It ended. I'm super shiny. People have to understand that finding yourself and the self-discovery is going to take time. It's going to take a hell of a lot of time. So much time. So much time. And honestly, at this point in time in my life, I honestly realized that for me as a person, I done discovered myself multiple times. Self-discovery is a non-ending cycle. It's a never-ending story, ladies and gents. You always want to end up thinking, like, the moment you think you figure yourself out, you're not gonna fully figure yourself out, because we're constantly evolving. Our DNAs are constantly changing. And one thing I can honestly say is that when it comes down to your parents are constantly discovering who you are as a child and trying to figure out what is the best course of action when it comes down to how to deal with that knowledge when they find out that you're gay.
Yeah, honestly, I think for a lot of parents, there are two things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is that most of your parents were born either in the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s.
70s.
Like, if your parents were born at any point between 1945 and 1972, the chances are that they were at a point when the world was trying to protest, when the world was in an experimental phase where they tried a lot of drugs. And I don't mean like, oh, they smoked a little wacky tobacco. I mean,
the devil's lettuce.
Some fucking acid.
The devil's lettuce.
Right, the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce or broccoli.
Right. They probably did some serious drugs and experimented, or what they would have said experimenting, with a lot of free love and no boundaries and whatever else. So a lot of your fathers have probably made out with a dude or gotten a blowjob or a hand job from some guy in their early teens. Shit didn't quite feel right, or it felt okay, but they obviously need to procreate and have babies. A lot of your moms have probably burned a bra and made out with some women and felt up what was at the time a very hairy bush. But all of that was their experimental phase. It was a time when they were trying new things and trying to find themselves. And that's when they were between 18 and 25.
You know what's funny, though? On that whole experimental phase, back to the whole Hollywood perspective, when it comes down to like a lot of these Hollywood quote unquote movies and moms and stuff, when their daughter comes out to their mothers talking about them being gay, like, yeah, your mom went through a phase in college, and they like reflect on it like that's okay. And in all actuality, it's not a phase, it's not an experiment. We need to stop saying it's experimenting. It's self-discovery. You're trying to figure out whether you like it or don't like it. And I get it. And I honestly say a lot of scientists will say, as we go through life, we conduct experiments to figure out our likes and dislikes. But it's about self-discovery.
Yeah, the thing is, with discovery and experimentation have a very big disconnect. Because with experiments, you're trying something over and over again to prove a result. Eventually, you're going to get a definitive answer. Sexuality isn't something that is definitive or static. It can potentially change. Your likes can change. Your wants can change. Your perception of what is or isn't sexy can change and develop. And just because there may not even be a term for the thing that you're into. You know, you might want to have spiders crawl all over your body while you masturbate. I don't know what that would be called. Arachnosexual? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. The point is, there's a thing that you may be into that people have not figured out a name for it yet. So, as far as they were concerned, it was experimenting because they knew what the end result was supposed to be. No matter how many boobs a girl felt, no matter how many hand jobs a guy got from another guy, no matter how many glory holes your dad may have visited between the time he was 19 and 26, eventually he knew, I'm going to end up with a woman, I'm going to have kids, we're going to get married, live in a house, have 2.5 children with a picket fence, and everything is going to be fine.
Oh, Zeb, we have somebody trying to call in on Podbean.
All right.
Hold on real quick.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey.
How are you?
Hello.
No, I was looking. Yeah. How all of you?
I am fantastic.
Lovely. Lovely.
I was wondering, can you move them a little closer to the mic, maybe? Like, I'm having trouble hearing them, too.
How can we help you today?
I was listening, and I found sadness. This guy, is he happy? May I ask you a question? Are you happy?
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Am I happy?
Are you happy?
Yes, I am happy.
No, not you.
Oh, I'm happy right now, yes.
Yeah.
All right, do me a favor, my love.
Me?
All right, so at this point, that was from what I was gathering, that we were getting someone who was just asking if you were okay, if you were happy, things of that nature. More or less, what the discussion is at hand is, like I said, we go through our phases, and I get that they're saying a definitive answer, especially when it comes to science, going to experimenting, and figuring out our sexuality. Your tastes are going to change. Like, I can tell you straight up, I went from a phase of I only wanted to date guys who was looking like they were sleep deprived and they were listening to gothic emo music and had long hair and, can headbang. Then I went through a moment where I was like,
Pete Davidson, is that what we're?
I went through a phase where I only liked, talking to girls who had, short hair and they were skinnier than me but had really big boobs. And then I went through a phase of, liking females who kind of look like guys. And then I went through a phase of liking guys who have salt and pepper phase. I'm still in that phase, honestly, because if you come to me and you got a whole salt and pepper going on here and you're going to let me stroke, it's game over. I'm just saying. And then there's a moment where, like, for me, it's not even about the looks anymore, honestly. It's about a personality, because honestly, you can have the most macho man in the world or the most feminine female in the world, and they could still be an asshole, or they're still self-centered, or they're still this. And honestly, if I have a child that comes into fruition, or if I adopt a child and they come up to me and say, I'm gay, I'm going to be like, okay. And I'm going to love them either way, Because at the end of the day, it's not going to change who they are as a person or what they do with who they do it with. They're still that child I raised. They're still that person I changed diapers for. People cannot expect our children to follow in the same footsteps as us. We can't expect that what society or what the media or, you know, Hollywood has perceived as a manly man or a girly girl. Because if they show a woman who's a boss figure, she either has to be a lesbian or she has to be so dominant that she scares away men and she's so consumed with work. In some cases, it is the case. In some cases, that's not the case at all. People have to stop looking to social media and the news on what is the right definition of, you know, somebody who is in the LGBTQ community. Like and another thing is, like, I wanted to address sometime this month, but unfortunately we didn't have enough time on any of the episodes, is I've noticed a lot within the LGBT community, a lot of people have a lot of prejudice against other people in the LGBT. Like for lesbians who have kids, they get mad and talk about, oh, you can't be a full lesbian if you've ever had dick in you, or you can't be, you know, you can't be with a woman, or I don't want to be with a woman who's ever been with a man. It's something that we have to kind of like understand, that we're still on the same spectrum. We're in the same group, and we have to stop eliminating that whole I'm better than you because I've never ever had dick ever. It's just always been a turn off to me. I mean, like, how do you know? Have you ever went down that line? Have you ever went down that path? And honestly, even then, with a lot of these people that we follow on social media, and they do these little skits, they make the jokes and stuff. They're talking about, yeah, you know, some of these lesbians who are stems and who are dykes will go out and play around if somebody's paying the right price. And I'm like, that's not the case. Like, y'all are making a joke. I get it. And we live in a society where, especially in the African-American community, we make jokes of things to kind of hide our depression and our oppression and everything else. We joke about everything, yes. But at the same time, that's what people are representing as the gay community. They're only looking at the overly eccentric. They're looking at these skits. They're looking at a lot of things and not realizing your best friend who sits here and, you know, goes out to the club with you and looks like she goes home with dudes every night is technically gay. You don't know. We gotta stop sitting here and accepting that, you know, Hollywood has perceived gay people to be over eccentric.
I can agree with that, but I think representation is not necessarily a matter of the onus being on entertainment and media to present an accurate picture of any group of people, and that be your only source for finding out what a black person is like, what a gay person is like, what an Asian person is like. I think at some point when you go into any of these situations, you need to go into them with a very clear perception that this is entertainment. This is not meant to depict real life.
Oh, but it's reality TV. It's reality TV. This is them in real life.
Is that it is TV.
This is reality TV. This is how Cardi B acts like in real life. This is how RuPaul acts in real life. This is how these drag queens act in real life. The guys from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. This is how they act in real life. No, it's not.
You know what? It may be. No,
for them.
In some cases, it may be. But when you have an individual that is super aggressive or super flamboyant or ready to fight at the drop of a hat or just walks around calling everybody a bitch or reading people left and right, that's not necessarily representative of the group. So if you think that, okay, as a woman, if you date a guy and he shows up late for a date, tells you to hurry up and get in the car, gets you to the restaurant, is checking out every other woman around, is asking you in the middle of dinner, so, what kind of positions you like? That guy is an asshole. He doesn't represent every person with a penis. He's just an asshole. And when you are willing to separate that an individual behaving badly does not represent the group that they belong to, then you start to actually have important conversations. Because if you're willing to dismiss that this person's actions are being played up for a reaction or they're just a toxic person, then you can move that along. The problem is when you have consistently the same type of groups of people popping up over and over and over again. With the police, I would be willing to accept, oh, there's a bad apple, if it was a bad apple. But then you start hearing groups of cases, hundreds of cases, thousands of people, hundreds of videos posted to the internet, not of the same incident, but separate incidents, where people are being told to shut up by the police, being treated aggressively, being shot, being fucking beaten, being arrested with no provocation.
It's abusing. That's abusing of power. I can honestly say though, it's also another thing, like when it comes down to the media, it comes down to how we've been perceived and everything else like that. Like there was a moment where they only thought of light-skinned dudes as these abusive, non-caring, egotistical in like the media when it came to Black culture and representation in Hollywood. There was a moment in time where they literally made it seem like light-skinned dudes were abusive assholes, and they you always saw them. Their characters were always written light-skinned, wife beater, and literally wearing a wife beater. Like that was it. Like I was like, if you look at the old school, like the old school times, like in the early 80s and up to early 90s, that's literally how the character was written for light-skinned African Americans in culture. So then when you see these same actors playing a different role now as a light-skinned actor, you're looking at them because they're trying to erase it. They're trying to erase how the media portrayed them. And it's just like, even now, that's something that people in the gay community has to do too. We need accurate representation of us in the media, especially when it comes to people who are in the spotlight, who are in the media and stuff like that, because you'd be surprised. There is a lot of straight people who are playing gay people and they don't know how to really represent us.
Yeah, because they're operating on their former experience, and that experience is sometimes that when they're channeling a performance, they're using other sources. They're like, oh, you know, like when Heath Ledger was playing the Joker, there was certain elements of Tom Waite in there. There were certain elements of him, you know, copying what he had seen from other mentally ill patients or whatnot, as far as like the whole licking the side of his mouth thing. You grab things from somewhere else, but if your most iconic, let's say that you're playing a trans person, if the most popular representation that you think a person did it so well is Jamie Foxx being Wanda from In Living Color, if that's your idea of what a trans woman looks like or act like, or if your representation
or Shanae by Martin Lawrence,
right, exactly. Like if that's your idea of what ghetto Black
or Tuwon Fu
woman is supposed to be, then the representation you put out there or that you put into your performance is going to smack of that. And what I think is, yes, we do need better representation for LGBTQIA people. However, know what the entertainment is that character is going to be represented in. What I don't want is for silly, campy, goofy, over-the-top things to try to think they have to be woke. Because when they try, they fail fucking miserably, and what you get etched in eternity is an episode of a show or a movie that has terrible representation because they're trying too hard, and it fucks up the source material. It fucks up the overall storyline because this person is trying to show how woke they are about gay issues and, you know, how they're trying to make the person look as accurate as they can, and instead you're just like, you're mixing media. If you're making a horror movie and everyone is disposable, don't spend 20 minutes of the movie going over how this guy has been living with his boyfriend for 4 years and blah, 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 for them to go out into the yard and be eaten by a demon clown. Like, all of that's not necessary. Like, if this is Demon Clown Parade 6, and they are all out here to get eaten by demon clowns, the representation doesn't need to be that. As a matter of fact, in media, what happens more often than not is people go overboard with trying to be woke, and it's like, instead of giving me all of this backstory, just introduce it in a small way.
Mm-hmm.
This person is, you know, like, on the phone, or they get a call because they're about to go do something. And the person answers the call, yes, honey, I'm fine, okay, love you too, bye. And then the other person standing next to them is at the ball and chain. It's like, and if it's a guy talking, yeah, man, he won't leave me the fuck alone. I can't get a goddamn moment's peace. And then you just put the phone back in your pocket. You don't acknowledge it. You don't go into depth. It's established. His ball and chain or his partner is a man. It's nothing to elaborate on or extol on or make a big deal out of. He doesn't need to go into a 10-minute monologue about, yeah, when we met 10 years ago at the Bearded Clam, it was the best night of my life when we were talking over cosmos about just how many inches each of us could take. Like, none of that is necessary for character development. Because at the end of the day, no matter what genitals it is that you do or don't have, or what genitals it is you do or don't like, or what representation a person is as far as like how they present gender-wise, none of those things are your character. They are a part of you as a person, but are you a coward? Are you strong? Are you overly emotional? Are you hot-headed? These are things in character development.
Mm-hmm.
What do you care about? What are your motivations? What was your childhood like? These are all things that motivate a character. And for representation's sake, if you are playing a character, be the character. Don't be their sexual orientation unless it is integral to the story.
That part.
And more often than not, these characters are just gay for gay's sake. Or gay for the show to seem woke. Or gay just so they can make jokes at the other person's expense. And all of that is cheap and fucking unnecessary. So, like I was saying, like, I get that, and, Dark GX, hey, like, they have all these white actors doing black character voices on animated shows. Honestly, that is the only thing I don't give a fuck about. As far as, like, whether or not it's accurate. What I don't like is white people trying to play black voices in stereotypically black ways.
That I would have a problem with.
I'm not with it. I'm not with it at the fuck all. But if they're doing, like Cleveland, there's been a white guy playing Cleveland Brown on Family Guy since day one. And he is now stepping down because the female actress from Big Mouth is stepping down from playing the only black character on the show. Now, that character is black and Jewish. And the woman who's playing the voice is Jewish, but she's like, well, I can't represent her blackness. If you think blackness is something separate from the experience of being a human being, you have a problem.
Yep, because now you're
not playing ghetto. You're not playing a person who fell on hard times. You're not playing race relations. Missy, who was a person who grew up in the suburbs with a Jewish organic-based mother and who's into like eating quinoa and who doesn't have sugar, she doesn't have the same black struggle a person growing up in the ghetto would have. So her being played by someone who needs to have more of an urban experience or a hood appeal is unnecessary. It's not necessary. It's never been necessary. As far as Cleveland, they didn't play Cleveland up as, you know, just being super hood. There are a couple of things Cleveland did that are just classic black people stuff as far as like, you know, he likes grape soda or whatever else the case is. But that wasn't necessarily something that a person needed to be a black character to play, if that makes any sense. Voice actors are meant to flex their range vocally. Do I think there needs to be more black people in the writer's room? Yes. Do I think there needs to be more black voice actors? Sure. But what I don't think is that a person who's been voicing a character needs to step back or step down unless they are presenting that character in a stereotypically unflattering way in an effort of trying to make them sound more black or more hood or more, you know, for the people. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, all that's unnecessary. Like, certain things don't need to change just for the sake of wokeness. If you want to be woke,
it has a lot to do. It has a lot to do with the cancel culture that's going on. So that's what that's going on, because so many celebrities are getting canceled over the wrong like representation, and I think because they're afraid of being canceled next, because everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, it's unfortunate. It's the sheeple. When it comes down to it, nobody has their own individual opinions about things anymore. They're just following what the media is saying. Again, this is why I said proper representation, because we are so consumed with what the media is perceiving as gay or black or, you know, white and this, that, and the other. It's just like, I just don't get. I don't get. And that's Jody, by the way. You put Judy instead of Jody.
I saw. I was like, you know, I corrected it. It has been corrected.
But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where we need proper representation. And the thing is, because that's not what the media is selling, they're selling entertainment. They're not selling accuracy. They're not getting it. So that's the reason why people are going more towards the podcast or going towards actually going out to the settings and stuff like that, because unfortunately there is some gay people who do represent the gay community incorrectly. They be so quick talk about, yeah, bitch, I still your man too. He may be straight, this, that, and the other. And then you're looking at them like you're the reason why people don't like gay people right here, because you are being a stereotype versus being who you are. Then there's the people who are in gay culture in the media and they don't act like a stereotypical gay person. And like when it comes to that, like for instance, Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He seems like he's very intelligent and he's gay. And it's just like, he's not like overly eccentric and all that other stuff, like how it's perceived in a lot of other stuff. But that's just it. We need proper representation. And that's just how I look at it. When it comes down to music and when it comes down to everything, everybody is selling something. And even like I can use Meg Thee Stallion right now as an example. This girl goes to college, but only people perceive her as, oh, she's a girl who likes to talk about, you know, twerking and hot girl summer and driving the boat, and you know, I can, if the dick wasn't good, I erase it. It never happened. I'm like, you're the reason why people look at hot girl summer and city girl trends and all this other stuff and look at them like, oh, you on that whole shit, not realizing this girl still donates to a lot of stuff. She goes to college. I may not personally listen to her music. Her music's not my go-to, but that's how people are looking at it, and they're perceiving as they're looking at what she does in her music.
Honestly, it's more about like in every culture, we have to kind of acknowledge that everybody has a little cringe in their culture. Everybody. There are gay people who have a gay friend who is the fucking most. The absolute goddamn worst. You never want to take this motherfucker out. You don't want to go to their house.
Oh, I got a few of them.
With them. When the Pride Parade comes up, you want to make sure that you are at least 7 to 10 people ahead of them so they don't fucking embarrass you. Because you know they're extra. And you're embarrassed to be seen in public with them. And those are the main people. It used to be an old trope and shit when I was younger that they would bypass every intelligent person when the news people came around and find one of the most unintelligible motherfuckers to ask what happened. They get the one, like you would have one college professor, one school teacher, one doctor, and one crackhead, and the news van would go directly to the crackhead. So what happened, sir? It's like, well, I don't know, the shit was on fire when I got here. It's like, I don't know what that's about. I don't know why they always pick the fucking worst person to represent those people, but trust me, as a black person, I have been watching TV or watching a movie, and I've just been like, why? Why do you have to make us look bad? Or there's been a dude who has said some shit to a woman in front of me. Like, look, if she wanted to come, she should have fucking started rubbing one out before I got in there. And I'm like, nigga, I'm not with him. I don't know where he got that shit from. I am so sorry. And you end up apologizing to niggas you don't even know. Every culture has some cringe. Every culture. We all have that one person that makes us fucking embarrassed to be who we are or live where we live. Or, like, I'm pretty sure niggas from Chicago stopped claiming Chicago as soon as Kanye put on a motherfucking MAGA hat. All I'm saying, like, these niggas, they didn't want to get specific. Like, no, actually, I'm from Schaumburg, which is in the northern suburbs. Like, I'm not actually from Chicago. I'm Chicago adjacent.
Easy.
But it's like, that's just how it is. So when you realize that, yes, there are people who represent the most toxic parts of your culture or of your race or of your group, or even of your city, like, it's not always a good look. At the same time, you need to separate yourself and your culture from the representation that you have. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be
easy.
Somebody that extols the greatest virtues that you have. More often than not, it's going to be somebody flawed, and they're going to use this person as a figurehead in ways you don't expect. This person is going to be chosen to represent you, and they may not. Like, their beliefs may not represent your beliefs. The statements they may not represent your statements. Like the show The View. There's some women on there that say some extremely toxic, fucked up shit. They don't represent all women, but that it's supposed to be a panel of women that represent all women.
And that's the thing.
So when you realize,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll come back.
I was just saying, when you realize that the people who are chosen by the media or by the culture or by the masses to represent you don't always reflect who you are. It is up to you to find proper representation and signal boost it. When you find podcasts like this, where there are women that are positive representations of the LGBTQ community, positive representations of protecting your energy, positive representations of what it's like to be pan and or poly, positive representations of self-care, those are the things you need to be sharing with your friends. Those are the things you need to be making go viral. Those are the things you need to be signal boosting, because instead of somebody listening to Steve Harvey give worse advice to women on how to be fucking subjugated to some nigga, or how some nigga needs to basically get over himself to have you because you're the world's greatest prize, stop falling into these traps and instead put somebody on a pedestal who does have an agenda, but that agenda is better people. That agenda is a better community. That agenda is equality, because everyone has an agenda. But when you are standing behind shows like American Idol, when you're standing behind shows like Bad Girls Club, you're standing behind a fake culture. You're standing behind people being propped up to represent you that don't represent you at all. Is all I'm saying. What were you saying?
What I was saying is, as a person who knows for a fact that representation is crucial. Like I said, I have everything stacked against me when it comes down to my labels. I have everything stacked against me. But then the moment they actually meet me and talk to me and be around me, they realize I'm intelligent, I'm helpful, I'm a healer, I'm always going to be there for you. Even if there's moments that I need to myself, because naturally that's who I am. When it comes down to representation, don't let the media paint the picture for you. Take time to actually educate yourself. As a person who is gay, when you finally do come out to your parents, or if you are trying to figure out why my parents haven't accepted it yet, just like it takes the time for you to digest the information, they are digesting in their own way. It may take them longer to digest because, again, in their eyes, they've already painted you as their child. When it comes down to little things of that nature, you have to just take in consideration that the media is going to always shed light on things in the negative. And a lot of the reason why a lot of people only know the negative is because you're more prone to hear negative comments than it is for good. And they always say that most people, same when it comes to businesses, you will have more people talk about the bad of a business than the good of a business. A lot of people do not boast it up or talk about it. And as a culture that loves drama and loves watching people fail or people have like issues happen to them, unfortunately, we have to get out of that mindset of stop watching other people's misfortune. And I know a lot of people do it to get out of their own misfortune and their own problems and their own issues. But at the same time, you can't sit here and automatically assume that, oh, I see all these gay guys, so they all got to be well dressed, they all got to be clean, they all got to be organized, they're all loudmouth. I know plenty of gay guys who don't know how to dress, that don't bathe every damn day. I know plenty of gay guys who have dirty ass houses. I know plenty of gay guys who are drugged out of their mind. And I know plenty of lesbians who are whores. I know plenty of lesbians who are still on the fence. And I know plenty of lesbians who have kids. We cannot just sit here and look at the bad apples in the situation and automatically assume that is the entire culture. You can't just sit here and think that every lesbian is going to steal your girlfriend. You can't think that every gay guy is trying to steal your girlfriend or they're pretending to be gay. In all actuality, they're straight. No, that's not the case. People got to understand that representation, especially of any kind of representation, needs to not be taken at face value. If you're going to let one or two different encounters or 3 or 4 different encounters be what dictates something, then you are going to be part of the problem. Honestly, if that was the case, I would not be with men. I would be full-blown a lesbian. If it wasn't for one person telling me you cannot dictate all men for one person's actions, then you are going to literally miss out on a lot of opportunities. And this is somebody who like I said, my very first love, who was a girl who's full blown knew for a fact she never would like men to be like sexually intimate with. She was the reason I actually went back. She told me straight up, you cannot dictate whether or not you like men because of one person's actions. Because you never know. Like, I full-blown hated men, did not want to talk to them, didn't want to be around them, nothing. And she basically had to talk me out of it. And it's just like, that's why I think the way I think. I don't automatically assume everybody's bad because of one person's actions. I'm not going to assume anything. And the thing is, I've been a firm believer that assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So your job as a person, not as somebody who's gay, not as somebody who's a parent, not as somebody who's black, white, or anywhere in between on the rainbow, is to educate yourself. Do not let the media and the news be your representation, and make sure you share your information, the right information, not what the media wants you to know. Because again, when it comes down to it, think of that old game telephone, where I could be telling Zeb one thing and then Zeb goes and tells somebody else and they keep going down and then it eventually gets back to me and it's something completely different. So do your own research. Make sure you're not just clicking on or sending out clickbait, but represent and educate yourself, especially when it comes down to the laws in your area. You don't know if who may need it when it comes down to the laws, especially when it comes to non-discriminative protection, discrimination protection when it comes down to people in the LGBT community, those who are in the minorities, anything of that nature that may be helpful for your community, as well as helping people protect their energy and who they are in themselves. We want, in order for us to make change and to do anything change-wise when it comes down to LGBT, Black Lives Matter, and especially when it comes to trans rights, you want to make sure that people have a safe space and make sure we have the right representation. So then when we do go out into the world, we are able to tell people this is who this person is. Yeah, there's going to be some bad people out there because not everybody's good. But that's the thing. Everybody's different. Yes, they may be under that umbrella, but everybody has their own individuality. Everybody has their own representation. I am definitely goth. I am definitely black. I am definitely pansexual. I am definitely demisexual. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. I have PTSD, suicidal thoughts with bipolar depression, but that does not mean I'm going to go kill myself. It doesn't mean that I'm automatically sad. I tell people representation is very important. And I always tell people all the time when I post up my pictures of me smiling, I'm like, this is what depression looks like, because you can still be smiling. You can still be XYZ. You need to make sure people have the right representation and know that we are here to educate. We're here to heal. We're here to make sure that people have the right information and to help them seek out the knowledge for themselves. And best believe, I am not here to make you comfortable when it comes to this educational knowledge, because you don't know. If it makes you uncomfortable, then that means it's sticking. That means you are learning something. That means you're something you were not comfortable to hear before, and now you are here learning.
Yeah, all of that is absolutely essential. You can't take one person to represent the entire group, no matter how much you want to. Honestly, people forget, if you want representation for what a gay person should be, especially a gay person from the South, just look at Joe Exotic. That who you want to be your spokesman?
Hell.
Gay, racist, Confederate flag flying, tiger abusing, weird motherfucker. Like, is this your leader? Because I don't think it is.
I still have not watched that show. I refuse to watch that show. My sister has been trying to get me to watch that show. I refuse.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say you should definitely watch it because it's not what it looks like, but you got to trust me on this. I don't make bad recommendations to you. You know I don't.
I know you don't.
You might never watch it, but I'm saying you got to trust me on this because I went into it with ready to roll my eyes and came out of it knowing there were 3 murderers not going to prison. And I was just like, yo, for real? So just, you gotta trust.
But let them be black, though. They would be in jail right now. They'd be under the jail.
Instead of Tiger King, it would just be Dog Fighters starring Michael Vick. It would be fantastic.
But, like I said, we need proper representation. I had to change the subject.
Not Michael Vick as representation, just so we're on the same page.
We need proper representation when it comes to people in the Black community, in the LGBTQ community. So those who are out there fighting, those who are trying to make sure that their voices are heard, those who are our freedom fighters, as well as those who are fighting for equality, for those who are fighting for the right cause. Thank you so much. Thank you for having your voice being heard. I don't think you guys hear it enough, but representation is definitely important. And we've been fighting this battle for years. And it's funny. It's funny because it's gay people have gotten more rights than black people have, and black people have been fighting longer. But the thing is,
black people get it even fucking worse.
And gay black people get it even worse, especially in the trans community. So representation, educating yourself, finding safe havens for your friends, because you don't know what demons these people are fighting. A lot of people in the trans community, especially African Americans, are already battling enough. They are already basically feeling, especially those who are in the ghetto and the hood, they're fighting it a lot worse, and they have it a lot worse. And having a safe place and a safe area to be themselves is something that we need more of. We need more people who are willing to speak up for them. We have more people who need to speak about mental health issues in the Black community, as well as anything. So if anybody ever needs that kind of safe space, I know there is Strong Friends podcast, my podcast, me, if you want to talk to me personally. Zeb is a great person to talk to. Like, he has been one of my few friends that I can go to and talk to about just about anything. And I've known him for years. And I love him to death. He gets on my nerves sometimes, but I love him to death. And he will remind me that, you know what, the way you're feeling is justifiable. The way you are thinking is right. And he'll put me back on my place, like when I'm thinking. And then he makes sure that we go the way we need to go. Coco Kitty Nails is saying, yes, he is. So if you ever need a safe space, a safe person to talk to, he may not be, gay, but if you want to sit here and need somebody that you want to talk to and just need guidance on how to come out to somebody else, he will be there for you. And if you just need somebody to give you healing vibes and energy, I'm always here. Or if you just want to sit here and watch me complain about video games and say I ain't gonna be no bitch on horror video games, I'm always here too.
Please check out her Twitch. That shit is hilarious to watch. Especially with her playing Final Fantasy or COD. Like, just watching her play Call of Duty is hilarious.
I'll be so excited. Like, I got one kill. Yes.
Right? Like, it's a good, like, if you honestly are looking for a safe space, safe spaces aren't what they've been painted to be by a lot of media or touchy-feely white people. Safe spaces are not just four blank walls full of pillows and quilts where you can just cocoon yourself away from the world. The safe space is a space where you feel capable of having tough conversation. Mm-hmm. It's a space where you feel you're not going to be judged for your ideas or for your feelings or for your beliefs. A space where you can actually enjoy another person's company because they don't make you feel judged.
And mine's...
You're not going to go into that space with preconceived notions.
I am definitely one of those people that everywhere I am, my Discord, my IG, my Twitter, my Facebook, it is definitely a safe zone. You can come to me and talk to me about anything. Yeah. It's judgment free, because I honestly I don't have room for judgment. I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life. And like I said, being African American, well, I'm a mixed African American, pansexual, demisexual, witch. So I have to deal with a lot of stuff. So I have no room for judgment. And one thing about being a witch is that we really don't judge people. We just don't want to have hate. We want to heal people and help guide people. The whole reason I tell people... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, for you, a very unique thing specific to her she provides safe spaces on all of her media platforms. But beyond them just being safe spaces, when she says she doesn't judge people. She and I both try to objectively judge a situation and try to give you the best outcome, the best available conversation, the best options without judging you. Like, if you came to me like, oh, I think I'm pregnant. Okay, what would you like to do? Oh, well, my parents are going to fucking kill me. Okay, that's your parents. How do you feel? What do you want to do? Oh, well, I've been feeling suicidal for days. Okay, now do you actually feel like you want to kill yourself, or are you just tired of what you're going through, or do you feel lonely? Talking it through is not about judgment. Like, girl, you got plenty to live for.
Oh my God. As a person who suffers suicidal thoughts, that is the worst thing to say to somebody in a suicidal moment. That's not going to get them off the ledge. You have to sit here and you have to help them realize it themselves. You have to talk them through it. You have to walk them through it without judgment, because we all have our moments where we're not going to be there. We all have our moments where we're questioning, especially those who are in the LGBT community, who are still in the self-discovery phase, and they have judgmental parents, or they still live in a judgmental society, or live in the Bible Belt. It's not about the aggressiveness. It's about holding their hands through the process, because sometimes, a lot of the times, a lot of people just need somebody to be there to hold them their hand as they talk themselves out of the ledge. For me, I've had to talk myself out of the ledge when it comes to my suicidal thoughts, and that's why I don't judge people, and I don't sit here and say, oh, you have a lot to think for, oh, it could be worse, or this, that, and the other, because that is literally the worst thing to say to anybody when it comes to that, because now you're making them feel worse. They're like, you're right, I shouldn't be thinking this way, and now I feel bad because I'm thinking this way. And you have to know how to hold a person's hand. So when we say we have these safe spaces for you, we have these safe spaces for you to come and talk to us, especially those who are considered the strong friends. You can come and talk to us and confide in us, because those who are the strong friends are the ones who actually need the help the most. And those who are still in the experimental phase, or they're going through the whole self-discovery phase, we are here to help you through these moments. If you just need a shoulder to cry on, someone to vent to, someone who is going to give you a non-biased opinion about it, that's what we're here for. Even if I may know you from since we were 7 years old, I'm not going to give you my opinion based off of how I know you. I'm going to give you my opinion based off of the situation at the hand. I'm going to look at the situation and eliminate my personal feelings as your friend, and I'm going to walk you through it and go through it. I'm not going to be that friend talking about, man, huh?
I will be biased for sure.
He's biased. He's biased with me all the time.
I will definitely be biased in the way I approach it, because as far as I'm concerned, no matter how bad you think shit is, I think you're here for a reason, not the whole grand scheme of the universe. I think you exist because you are supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how long for, no matter whether you become the president or a doctor or whatever else, I think you as an individual are such a unique combination of timing, of DNA, of the universe coming together, that I think you're perfect. Not the aesthetic Cinderella beauty version of perfect. I think you're perfect for all of your flaws, for all of your perceptions, for all the beliefs that you have. So I'm going to go into this completely biased.
Are we talking someone off the ledge?
Oh no, I think a person is fucking amazing from Jump Street. Your circumstances might be something you can't control. Your situation might be something you can't control. Your gender, your age, your sexual representation, and they are not necessarily negatives. But if you are having a negative moment of self-reflection where you're like, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm a piece of shit, I'm going to come in this biased as fuck.
Oh, yeah, definitely biased with those situations. When it comes to decision making, yeah. I might come in non-biased. It depends on the situation, but like when it comes to talking someone down from a depressed moment or from a situational moment or questioning themselves, of course I'm going to come in with full blank bias. But when it comes to like a situational decision or hypothetical decisions, then it'll be non-biased. But I'm always still going to have the best interest in mind when it comes to that person and their situation. And I'm never going to judge you for whatever decision you make. I'm going to just tell you, these are your decisions. This is what you may possibly have as outcomes. And that's what my friends come to me for. They come to me for that particular thing. They don't come to me to basically to judge them unless they literally say, hey, does these jeans make my ass look big? Then I'm going to be blankly honest, because now you're asking me to give you a judgment call, and that's just it. But when it comes down to these safe spaces, that's what we're here for, especially those who are in the LGBT community, those who are still questioning whether or not they're bisexual or pansexual, those who are asexual, those who are even questioning being poly or how to address the possibility of being poly, and just for educational pieces or just someone to talk to and be friends with. Hell, even if you just like, hey, I just want to play video games. Or even if you're a person who's sexual and you want to have some sex education, because I can teach you a lot of stuff. I used to sell sex toys, so I can educate you on that too when it comes down to it. It's a safe space. It's non-judgmental, and that's what we're here for. And just, I always tell people I'm here for the healing vibes. I always tell people it is okay to not be okay. You're not going to be happy 24/7. You're not going to be bubbly and sunshine and, you know, rays of like light every day. It's not. And just, I want everyone to know that. And if whatever demons you're battling, you don't have to battle them yourselves. You don't have to analyze them yourself. There's people out there, there's safe spaces out there. You just have to find them. And what I would like to end on, before I do that, Zeb, do you have anything before I end?
Oh, well, I'm gonna need you to pop the can for just a second, because I'm about to put some premium in here and gas you up. But we're not going away before we mention exactly just how motherfucking crisp your hair is looking right now in these cheeks. Look at that! Look at this. Bad profile and shit. Like, oh, there you go. See, and the thing is, people don't understand or don't appreciate the fact that something is harder to accept from the source that it's coming from. Trump could tell me right now my house is on fire. I wouldn't listen to a fucking word you're saying. I'd burn alive, just dead, because that nigga looks like he's shady. When you have someone who is literally bringing beauty into the world, trying to give you positivity and everything, you are the perfect package to be delivering this type of positivity. So I just want y'all to take like literally 10 seconds and just look at the person who is trying to give you all these fucking lovely ass healing vibes, and just imagine how fabulous this woman is right now. Just take a moment. Just take a moment. Just sit in it. Just rest with it. Because she is all about your happiness and your satisfaction, your emotional stability. And I appreciate that she appreciates you enough to do that in that package. Little Debbie snack cake ass motherfucker. So I'm gonna just back off. You go ahead and do your sign off. I just had to put that gallon of premium in the tank real quick.
If I could blush right now. This is the guy who reminds me when I'm feeling real low that I am Stardust, and that means I am a goddess. He reminds me, you are Stardust. And I'm like, you know what? You are amazing. Thank you. Because there's some days that I don't feel amazing. And I always have to tell people that I'm a witch when I have makeup, and then I am a bridge troll because I like guiding people. But to end this today, just remember, guys, it is okay to not be okay. Self-love is the best love. Protect your energy. protect your guidance. Remember, I have links in the bio for my Twitch. My Discord is going to be attached to this. I want you guys to say that it's okay to not be okay, and have a blessed week.